Welcome to Commander Tilt. My name is Clark. Just a little bit about my channel. I do custom gameplay videos as well as, just a variety of topics about the Magic the Gathering format. I just got off my Rush Tilt tournament in which the Selesnya Tech took the #1 spot. So feel free to check out those videos. I thought they were interesting. Okay, so this is the first time I have done this type of video. What I'm going to do is a deck tech. That's where I take the deck that I have built and just kind of go through all 100 cards in the deck. I decided to do a new deck. I just recently built this deck, and for this video, I particularly wanted to do a new card, a new commander, because who wants to watch videos about old commanders that have been around for a long, long time? So this is Galazeth Prismari. It's an Is-It commander that costs 2 blue-red. It's a 3/4 Elder Dragon with flying, and Galazeth says, when Galazeth Prismari enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. And then it also says, artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells. So that second line of text, where all of your artifacts turn into mana rocks, was what really drew me to building this deck. The difficulty in building the deck was that I had to do both, like it's a dual focus deck. I have to have a lot of artifacts, because that serves as ramp, but I have to have a lot of instants and sorceries, because the mana rocks that are created by Galazeth can only be used for instants and sorceries. So it was a fine balance to determine if this deck was going to be able to function and do well. And I decided that I wanted to really go in a heavy card draw, and probably more card draw in this deck than any other deck I've built, because I just felt like I needed to get a lot of cards into the hand so that I can have the option of instants and sorceries and artifacts, because it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with card draw. You always want a lot of card draw, and I just felt like with this particular strategy of having 2 focuses of instants and sorceries and artifacts, that a lot of card draw would really benefit. And plus, a lot of card draw is an instant and sorcery, so it kind of fed into itself. The first commander deck that I built, or maybe the second commander deck I built, was a Sekaur Death Priest deck, and it was a really tough deck, and I ended up taking it apart because it had that dual focus. You had to have sacrifice outlets, and you had to have non-token creatures to sacrifice to the sacrifice outlets, and really 3 focuses, because you had to have some kind of reason for why you were sacrificing, some kind of payoff for the sacrifice. And like I said, it just wasn't a very good deck. It didn't ever seem to get energy very often. Every once in a while it would snowball and do great, but for the most part it just didn't have the card draw, and it just didn't work very well. So anyway, I took it apart, and I was hoping this wouldn't happen to this deck, so that's why I went ahead and focused on those 2 big things, the artifacts and the instants and sorceries. So I hope that you enjoy this deck tech, and I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to hand it off to Galazeth. I hope you enjoy the video.
I am Galazeth Prismari. All shall bow to my eminence. I am the strongest and most capable Elder Dragon in all the realm. The Planeswalker Clark has asked me to present before you the evidence of my followers, my arms and my armaments. But this is beneath me, so I shall have one of my minions present the information for all to see. Goblin, get over here. Tell these people about my arms and armaments.
Well, where should I start, Master? I'm not so sure I know what to do.
I am a dragon. You shall tell about my treasure first.
Oh, good idea, Master. Very good. So, we've got a category of cards here that we're gonna call the artifacts, and these artifacts do a variety of things. But they are all artifacts, regardless of how they do things, because they, besides the fact that they have special powers and they do many things, they're also going to be able to tap for mana with with Prismari out. So Soul Ring, Cathar's Shield, Sun Droplet, Cultivator's Caravan, Pilgrim's Eye. All of these tap for mana, but as an artifact they can tap for any color mana because of the great Prismari powers. Okay, additionally, we've got a slew of artifacts. Well, let's just jump right into it. We've got Prism Ring, and Spell Satchel, Fire Shrieker, Mask of Memory. You know, that kind of serves as card draw as well. Mirari, oh, that's an interesting one. It's going to allow us to copy a spell if we play 3 mana. Sword of Vengeance, Black Blade Reforged. There's a theme between those two. We're going to be able to pump our creatures up. And then we've got Treasure Nabber. Oh, that's a goblin rogue that can steal artifacts from other creatures. And then perhaps the best artifact in the entire deck, we're going to include Unwinding Cloak. It untaps all artifacts you control during other players' untap steps. So this is a particularly useful card. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the removal spells, and I've got quite a few removals. I've got Amphan Mutineer, Reclusive Artificer, Baral's Expertise. Now, that's not technically a removal spell, but it's going to, well, yeah, it's going to return 3 target artifacts back to their creature's hands. Counterspell, you can't forget Counterspell, just 2 mana to counter a spell. Negate, 2 mana to counter a target non-creature spell, and that's really good because non-creature spells tend to be very impactful to the game. Welding Sparks deals 3 damage plus the number of artifacts we control. So if we control a bunch of artifacts, that's a bunch of artifacts plus 3 for the total amount of damage. We can kill most anything towards the end of the game. Bolt Bend. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Change the target of a target spell or ability with a single target. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to have creatures of power 4 or greater on the board very often. The Great Lord Prismari doesn't qualify for this, but just being able to change target of a spell is so impactful. And then, of course, we included Chaos Warp, one of the best red cards in the entire world. It's a great spell. Finally, I want to mention Drunk Troller. It's a card that puts a target card from a graveyard to the bottom of its owner's library. I mean, this could help us if we have shuffle effects, but it can certainly impact our enemies as well. Should they have some sort of a recursion theme in their deck, we could remove key pieces from their graveyard. Next, I'm going to take care of, take a look at, I'd like to call this little section the Air Force, a section of creatures that can fly. We have Crackling Drake. Crackling Drake's power is equal to the total number of instants and sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. Draw a card when he enters the battlefield. Next we have Hoarding Dragon. This creature has haste, and when it enters the battlefield, we can search through our library for an artifact card, exile it, and then shuffle our library. When it dies, we get to put that card in our hand. It depends on how the game is going, which artifact we would search for, but we have plenty of them in our deck. Thopter Spy Network. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature token with flying. So this is pretty good because we'll always have artifacts in play, and pure ramp, we get to create a tappable artifact that taps for mana. Next we have Sharding Sphinx. Whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Frustrating that the Sharding Sphinx creates blue Thopters and the Thopter Spy Network creates colorless Thopters. I wonder if we're going to need to keep track of that. Next we have Thopter Engineer. When it comes onto the battlefield, it creates a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature token. And artifact creatures all have haste, particularly useful in this deck. And finally we have Niv Mizzet Parun. a flying 5/5 dragon wizard that deals damage whenever we draw a card. And whenever we play an instant or sorcery card, we can draw a card.
Wait a minute there. I'm not so sure I understand what's happening. I'm Niv Mizzet Perun, and don't you think I could be the commander of this deck? No, I am the commander of this deck. But I've got the appropriate colors as well. Don't you think I could... Stop! You cannot be the commander. Well, I want to be the commander. I don't understand why. I am the commander. Like our little scuffle has killed the goblin electromancer. I have many minions. Kadim, get up here.
Oh, great and powerful Galazeth, I am so thankful you have been calling upon me to speak to the persons about the arms and armaments of your great mastery. I shall be happy to be telling all of these peoples about these cards. So I am in charge of perhaps the most important department. This department is called the card draw department. And of course, you know me, I am Paradigm, Council of Innovation. I have got many other cards in this department. Perhaps I'll just list a few of them. I've got Trading Post, and as you notice, it says 1 and tap, sacrifice an artifact and draw a card. I've got Scholar of the Stars. When Scholar of the Stars enters the battlefield, if you control an artifact, draw a card. Azure Fleet Admiral gives us the Monarchy, which allows us to draw an extra card at the end of each turn. Looking here, we also have this card, Reverse Engineer. Improvise. Our artifacts can help us cast this card, but of course, Galazeth allows us to cast this card anyway. Draw 3 cards. Brainstorm. For a single mana, we can draw 3 cards and put 2 cards on top of our library in any order. Fact or Fiction. A great political card. We reveal the top 5 cards of our library, and then an opponent separates it into 2 piles. We get to pick 1 pile and put it into our hand and the other into the graveyard. If we have an alliance with another player, we could get all 5 cards for 4 mana. Thought Flare is an Izzet card, 3 blue-red. Draw 4 cards and then discard 2 cards. I also have in this deck, and this is quite expensive, but with all the ramp, I think we can afford Fire Mind's Foresight. For 7 mana, it is be doing 5 and blue and red. Search your library for an instant card with converted mana cost 3. And then 1 for 2, and then 1 for 1. I think this would be a great card for this deck. Hypothesizzle, 3 and blue and a red. Draw 2 cards and then discard a non-land card, and it also deals 4 damage to any target. This being perhaps card draw as well as removal. I put it in card draw, but it can be removal as well. Steam Augury, 2 blue-red. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library, but this time an opponent chooses one of the 2 piles that we ourselves have separated, and then the chosen pile goes into either our hand or our graveyard. Again, if we have an alliance with another party member, then perhaps we can be choosing these 5 cards for simple 4 mana to draw. I've got the split card Invent, probably more for the invent side of the card. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card and put it into my hand. Fateful Showdown. It deals damage to target creature or player based on the number of cards in our hand, and then we shall be discarding our hand and then drawing as many cards. And finally, we have Cathartic Reunion. First, we discard 2 cards and then draw 3 cards. So, as you can see, we have quite a few card draw cards. The next category that I shall be talking about is, let's call this, well, just instants and sorceries. Galazeth's power allows us to be casting many instants and sorceries, so I wanted to fill this niche with many cards that do a variety of things we need. As you notice, all of our card draw was, the vast majority of our card draw was instants and sorceries, but additionally we have included Chemister's Trick and Dual Strike. These are combat tricks that allow our creatures to do more damage. Next we have Raking Claws, another combat trick that we can give double strike to a creature. Traitorous Greed, this allows us to take control of an enemy's biggest monster, as well as Wrangle, which lets us just take control of our enemy's smaller creatures, but smaller creatures are impactful in Commander. Our next category is another form of ramp. There's just 3 cards in this category. I've got Goblin Electromancer. You've already met him. I do hope he survived the fire. As well as Foundry Inspector. This card gives our artifact cards a cost reduction of 1 mana. And then Maelstrom Muse. This is a flying 2/4 creature that when it attacks, our next instant or sorcery card is reduced in cost by X, where X is Maelstrom Muse's power as the ability resolves. This is a fancy way of saying that perhaps 2 mana less at minimum for a instant or sorcery card. So very good. Very good card. Next, I think I shall be talking about a very small section of recursion cards. I do believe artifacts are very important to our game plan. So I have included Mere Retriever. This allows us to take artifact cards out of their graveyard. Our Chaos Mender as well will take artifact cards out of our graveyard, but it puts it into our hand. And Salvage Scuttler. Salvage Scuttler will retrieve artifacts from the graveyard to our hand when it attacks. So these 3 cards allow us to get cards back from the graveyard. Next, I shall talk about board wipes and cleansers in my land of Kaladesh. We call them typhoons. Typhoons are great storms that destroy much of the land around it. So the most impactful typhoon in this deck is Cyclonic Rift. I need no introduction to this card. I additionally included Magma Quake. Magma Quake deals X damage to each creature without flying, and each planeswalker. Next, I included Aetherize, an instant card that returns all attacking creatures to their owner's hands. So a combat trick that can save us in a pinch, as well as a good tempo hit. And finally, Vidalcan Humiliator seems to be a bit of an all-star in this deck. With Metalcraft, and Metalcraft means we must have 3 or more artifacts, not difficult. Then, when we attack, all creatures the opponents control lose all abilities and have a base power and toughness of 1/1 until the end of turn. This seems like a slam dunk card. Finally, I want to talk about one section very special to my heart. In this particular section, I have just a few cards that I consider perhaps game winners. Cards that can create a great deal of difficulty for our opponents. First off, we have Rock Slide Sorcerer. This is maybe more of a removal card, but for all the instants and sorcery cards we shall be casting, it will deal a damage to any target. More impactful, however, is Electrostatic Shield. It has a defender, but more importantly, when we cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Next, we have Polymorphous Rush. It will change a creature to any other creature. And then, with a strive cost, we can change additional creatures to that creature. So it's a complicated way of saying, if there's one big creature on the battlefield, if I can pump a bunch of mana into this one spell, all of my creatures can become giant monsters, exactly like that one ridiculous creature. And finally, I have Psychosis Crawler. The impactful part of the card is whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. Much like Niv Mizzet, the great and powerful wizard dragon that I talked about earlier. This card will allow us to ping our opponents with all this great card draw that we have in our deck. The final section of cards that I must discuss is, of course, the land base. No one can cast spells without land behind them. The crux of our power. So, lands that I have put into this deck include the Biblioplex, which allows us to look for instant or sorcery cards. It seems a little clunky, but I thought it would be helpful. Smoldering Crater will be cycling if we be in trouble with too much land. Thriving Isle will tap for a blue or a red. Thriving Bluff will tap for a red or a blue. Volatile Fjord will tap for a blue or a red, but it comes into play tapped, as well as Is It Guildgate? Swiftwater Cliffs will gain us a life at the expense of coming into play tapped. And Highland Lake just comes into play tapped. And with the final bits of our deck, we have... Oh, I almost forgot. Umara Skyfalls is in the blue section of our land base because it can tap for an island, but it's a flip card and can turn into a 4/3 wizard. Nothing to sneeze at. It also gains flying if we cast instant or sorcery cards, so it seems like a very good fit. And finally, we have 13 mountains and 14 islands. Oh, I did almost be forgetting one other member of our company. I shall let him introduce himself. Oh, come right on over here, Togo.
What is going on here? I didn't know that you were going to be even asking me to speak over here.
Yes, Togo, would you please introduce yourself and what you can do?
Okay. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under my control, I create a rock. And with that rock, you can throw it, and it deals damage to any target, which I think is pretty cool. But with Galazeth's power, that rock is what's that word again?
Artifact. The word you be thinking about is artifact.
Oh yes, okay. So it's it's an artifact, and you can tap it for mana as well. Isn't that really cool? I'm so excited.
That is enough. You shall be going now, Togo. I'm quite tired of listening to your speaking.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I'll get out of here. You have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
And now we will be looking at an analysis of the way this deck is put together. We have, if you divide it into categories similar to the way the websites of Command Zone talk about, we have 13 creatures, 8 ram spells, 15 draw spells, 9 removal, 4 board wipes. But then I could not find a category to put the artifacts in because they don't seem to do any of these particular things without your commander. So 5 artifacts and 9 combat tricks. The combat tricks might be considered to be a removal, but not necessarily, so it's a little confusing. And then of course 36 lands. A different way to look at these deck, I have posted the deck on Tapped Out, and it shows 24 creatures, 1 enchantment, 20 instants, 5 sorcery cards, 13 artifacts, and 36 land. So I hope you have enjoyed this deck analysis, the analysis of our arms and armaments. Great Lord Galazeth, I have completed what the task you have set before me. Is there anything else you shall be requiring of me before I take my leave?
No, you've been quite helpful, Padim. You may take your leave. And with that, I shall hand it back to the Planeswalker, Clark.
Well, I really appreciate you watching this video, and I can't tell you how much I enjoy the fact that you are watching. I think that the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more deck tech at least, and then you can look forward to me playing the decks that I do the deck techs on in a game. So thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. I do have a Patreon page, and I would love it if you would visit my page and take a look at the rewards that are available. It would help me out a lot. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you hear about my latest videos. Have a great day.
Hey, Kadim, do you want to hear a knock-knock joke?
Knock knock jokes, I am not understanding what you are talking about.
Oh, knock-knock joke. I say knock-knock, and then you say who's there, and then I'll say something. Okay, you've heard of it before.
Oh, yeah, perhaps, yes, I am understanding. I will attempt to do this thing for you.
Okay, so like knock-knock.
Who is there?
A broken pencil.
A broken pencil? Who?
Never mind, it's pointless.
Oh, yes, I am understanding this. But Togo, that was a very simple joke. Perhaps you should be going back to your rocks now.